Nope, it wasn't a joke, folks. He actually did it. Michael E. Steely took Thursday and Friday off work in order to do nothing more than sit at home and watch the Masters. And honestly, I am forced to respect it. Because, and it is Grayson Singleton that is in Steely's chair today.
What's good, homie?
Grayson, I have to respect it because we don't get a ton of vacation days.
No.
Unless you're TJ Perry, right? TJ Perry spends basically all summer on vacation.
Right.
But for anyone not named TJ Perry, you don't get a ton of vacation days every year here at this station. It's not like we only get 3 or 4. We have a little bit more than that. But like vacation days, as they are for most jobs, are limited. You only get so many days of paid vacation. And Steely has taken 2 of his precious vacation days in order to sit at home and watch golf. Watch the first 2 rounds of the Masters. And look, Grayson, I love the Masters as much as the next guy, unless the next guy is, of course, Mike Steely. And then, obviously, Steely loves the Masters like no one else loves the Masters. But, the Masters is the one golf tournament a year that I am not only paying attention to, but invested in. But even so, it's like watching the first 150 laps of a NASCAR race, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, I mean, this is something of a diversion. It's something to pay attention to, I guess. Something to watch mindlessly. But we all know that the first 36 holes of the Masters matter very little.
Well, I don't agree with that because getting out to a good start and having a little bit of a cushion can certainly help you come, Saturday and Sunday.
I'm just saying they call Saturday moving day for a reason.
This is fair. Here's the thing that I ask, and I was thinking about this yesterday because I knew we were going to do this show. I have no idea. I have no earthly idea how people sit and not check in and out, but actually watch golf on a continuum for hours on hours on hours uninterrupted. Like, I've never understood that, and I've tried to. I really have. But I cannot wrap my mind around just watching golf uninterrupted for long periods of time. More power to anybody who does it.
So not even on the last 2 days of the Masters?
I just don't get it because I know you're cutting between golfer and golfer when they're taking shots and whatnot.
Sure.
I do understand that, but it's not like basketball or football where you've got continual action going on, only interrupted by commercials.
Fair. I will say, the one day a year where I am absolutely spellbound by everything that's happening in the world of golf. And not only am I paying attention to a tournament, but I'm watching it intently, not taking my eyes off it. Sunday at the Masters. Hopefully I get the chance to this year because I'm supposed to be down in Houston this Sunday for the Under Armour Next camp that's down there. So it's going to be a busy, busy weekend for me. Crimson Combine on Saturday, Under Armour Next in Houston on Sunday. Hopefully I can find somewhere to post up and watch the last, 9 holes for the final groupings on Masters Sunday. But I agree with you that in general, I am not intently watching the sport of golf. Masters Week is just different, though. It just means more. It just means more to the general population, and it certainly means more to Mike Steely.
I'll tell you this. I can sit down and watch more continual tennis than I can golf. I've become a closeted tennis fan.
Really?
Over the last couple of years.
Okay, yes. Stay closeted.
Like Wimbledon. I can lock in for Wimbledon. Also because, especially when I was in college, I would just be doing homework or doing other kind of work, and I would have it on in the background.
Tennis has its window every year. It's about a week, maybe 2. You get to that point in the summer where there's literally nothing else going on except regular season baseball.
Yeah.
And there is a window for tennis. And then that window disappears.
Fair. That is fair. A texter on the 405. Dude is napping right now.
That probably true.
Probably very
Steely
true.
is probably conked out at some point, and if he isn't, he'll get there before too long. This hour of the show, folks, is brought to you by Lasher Home Comfort Systems. Whether you're looking to repair, replace, or maintain your air conditioning and heating system, call Lasher Home Comfort Systems, family-owned and operated, servicing the greater Oklahoma City area since 2007. 405-579-3113. For all your heating and air needs, home comfort you can trust. That is Lasher Home Comfort Systems and the great former OU kicker, Tim Lasher. The Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, which some of you are already hitting, is 405-651-3439. Again, 651-3439. Grayson, would you like to start the show with some sunshine pumping?
Let's do it.
I won't do it.
Let's pump that sunshine.
You won't have to do it.
Okay.
We'll allow Will Huggins to do it for us. Will Huggins, if you're not familiar, sixth-year senior tight end, just joined Oklahoma's program this offseason after 4 years at Kansas and 1 at Pittsburgh State in Pittsburgh, Kansas, a Division II program. He is heavily in the mix, and from what we're told, splitting time with Jaren Kanak atop the depth chart at tight end for Oklahoma. Huggins listed at 6'6", 262 pounds, so a big boy. In stark contrast to Kanak, who's 6'2", 230, and more of a speed guy at tight end ever since he made the transition from linebacker. But we got a post-practice availability session with several Sooner players last night, one of whom was Will Huggins. It was just the second time that Will Huggins has gotten the chance to meet with the media since joining the OU football machine. And here is Will Huggins, sunshine pumping about the tight end room and Joe John Finley. Enjoy.
We got a really good tight end room. We're all having a lot of fun with it. We got me, Carson, and John are new, and Jaren just came over from the linebacker position. And I think we're all just having a lot of fun with it. And Jaren's adjusting great. He's awesome to be around. All the guys in there are awesome. Caden Helms is doing a great job, and I'm blessed to be a part of the room. Joe John's awesome. He's like a tight end himself, really. He's just one of us, and he's a great coach, and he's great at teaching us how to do it. He's done it himself, so that helps for sure. And he's a great coach.
Apologies for the background noise there, folks. They were operating heavy machinery on the playing surface at Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium while we were doing those interviews, which is always fun, right? Like you start to congregate in these scrums and then you look out and, oh, there's an aerator going in the background. I don't think it was an aerator last night, but heavy machinery in the background of scrum-style interviews, always something you hope you can avoid. But there you go, Grayson. Will Huggins believes that Oklahoma has, and I quote, a really good tight end room.
Do they, though?
Tell me.
I mean, look, that's going to remain to be seen. It truly is one of the bigger mysteries of the Oklahoma offseason. And here's the thing, though. Here's why none of what he said. Look, I love that he's enjoying his new teammates, and he's enjoying spring practice, and he's enjoying Joe John Finley. That's all fine and great. But he did not tell us one reason why we should be more confident in that tight end room. He just listed everybody that's there and said they're doing great and said Jaren Kanak is adjusting well and that Joe John Finley is one of us. There is no reason based on that quote, that 30-second clip that we just played, that we should be any more confident than we already are about this tight end room. It is the ultimate, we are just going to have to wait and see.
There you go, folks. Starting off hot. Reality check with Grayson Singleton.
I told you.
Here on Steely and Thune at noon.
I'm going to leave the sunshine pumping to you and Will Huggins.
Sean on the text line says, he obviously sits on a throne of lies. Who, Will Huggins or Grayson?
That's a very good question. I hope it's not me.
Again, Huggins and Jaren Kanak are the two guys that are pacing that room right now in spring. Devon Mitchell is out of the picture. That's unfortunate, but not completely unforeseeable by any means. He had just kind of been scuffling on the depth chart ever since he got to town. Not really making a whole lot of headway. So at the very least, I guess expectations are somewhat diminished or brought back to reality, because I think there was kind of the unrealistic expectation for a while that Devon Mitchell is going to be the dude for Oklahoma at tight end in 2025. And look, if you were listening to the right people throughout the winter, throughout the offseason, you kind of knew Devon Mitchell was never going to be the guy at tight end for Oklahoma in 2025. Maybe he gets his body right to the point where he can contend to some degree, to some level. But, whoa, Fred Couples. I just watched Fred Couples, 67-year-old Fred Couples, hit an amazing putt on the first hole at the Masters. So, good work, Fred Couples. You are not a hoe. I don't care what the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line says.
Can I stop you midpoint, though, because I'm going to ask you this.
Yes.
If we made, in the interest of fairness to Devon Mitchell, we made a racket over him being 275 pounds.
Yep.
Will Huggins is, an extra couple bowls of gumbo away from being just that, too.
However, he is 2 inches taller.
He is 2 inches taller, but 262 is still heavier than you see most college tight ends.
He's a hefty boy.
So if there was concern about – I know Devon Mitchell's 2 inches shorter and 13 pounds heavier at 275, but that's an absurd, astronomical overweight for a tight end. Will Huggins is not your traditional weight for a tight end. So are people as concerned, or are they not as concerned maybe because he's always been around this weight? He didn't just jump that high. Like, why are we not making as big of a deal of him being 262 as we were with Devon Mitchell?
I think because there's a difference in expectations as to what Will Huggins is going to be at the tight end position versus what Devon Mitchell was going to be. Devon Mitchell was always a pass-catching tight end.
Right.
That was his game. He was less of a blocker, more of a pass catcher. I think when you look at Will Huggins at 6'6", 262, and you look at the other tight ends in the room, you expect a guy like Jaren Kanak to be more of your pass catcher type, the guy that's able to go sit down in zones, create some separation, beat man coverage when he's matched up with a linebacker, and make an impact in the passing game. A guy like Will Huggins, you would probably expect is on the field more primarily to block. And the weight would have been less of an issue. Like, it still would have been an issue, don't get me wrong. It would have been less of an issue if Devon Mitchell was a blocking tight end and everybody understood that he was going to be on the field primarily to block. But given that he was very much a pass-catching tight end who was actually raised and developed initially to play wide receiver before he just got a little bit too bulky to play that position anymore, were he not a pass-catching first tight end, the fact that he weighed in at 275 pounds at the beginning of spring ball would have been probably less of an issue.
And that does make a lot more sense.
Short Circuit Sooner on the text line says, is the tight end room going to become the same way the wide receiver room became 2 years ago? What do you mean by that? Because the wide receiver room 2 years ago became awesome. I know I'm not the only one that recalls that. In the 2023 season, before the debacle that was 2024 with the cavalcade of injuries that Oklahoma had to deal with, wide receiver production and wide receiver development and overall wide receiver play in 2023 was fantastic across the board. Think about how many guys made a tangible, significant impact for Oklahoma's offense at the wide receiver position that year. Nick Anderson, Drake Stoops, Andrell Anthony, Jaden Gibson, Brennan Thompson had some huge catches down the stretch for the Sooners. And there were others. Jaquez Petaway had 9 receptions in the season opener against Arkansas State. So I don't really know where you're going with that, Short Circuit Sooner. You're going to have to provide me some additional clarity. But I think what you hope with this group of tight ends is that you hit on one. Whether that's Will Huggins or whether that's Jaren Kanak or a guy like Caden Helms, whom Will Huggins mentioned in that soundbite, is doing really well. If a guy like Caden Helms can emerge as a threat in the offense, somebody that the defense has to account for, whether they're running routes or whether they're blocking, somebody that is pulling their weight and deserves to see the field as opposed to, just seeing the field out of obligation, as has been the case in the past with some Oklahoma tight ends. You're just seeing the field because, well, you got to have a tight end out there.
Yeah.
A 405 listener said, I think he's making fun of Steely. What are they teaching at J School these days? They not teach how to get a soundbite? Back in my day, we... 4 sleeping emojis. Signed Steely. Yes, thank you for being our honorary Steely today.
That's hilarious.
Quick preview of what's ahead. On the other side, by popular demand, we are going to welcome OU Insider's Brody Lusk back to the show because many of you have had questions throughout the week as to what is happening in the basketball transfer portal, and there is nobody better equipped to discuss OU basketball's efforts in the transfer portal than Brody. So we're going to hit an opening timeout here. When we return, we will have Brody Lusk on the Riverwind Casino Jackpot line. If you have any specific questions for the man, by all means, fire away on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439, but we will get some transfer portal scoop, some hoops transfer portal scoop with Brody on the other side. Keep it right here. Steelman and Thune at noon here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Considering refinancing your mortgage? Now might be the perfect time to start planning. With rates on the move, Stride Bank can help you determine if you may be able to lower your monthly payments, shorten your loan term, or tap into your home's equity. Stride's expert mortgage advisors will work with you to tailor a solution that fits your needs. With local roots and national reach, Stride Bank is your go-to partner for all your banking needs. Stride Bank, your trusted financial partner since 1913. Find out more at stridebank.com. Stride Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
What's up, Ref Army? It's Dusty Dvorak. Do you eat, sleep, and breathe football? KREF is the only place for the most comprehensive daily analysis of Sooner and college football. Catch me every Tuesday and Wednesday during the 10 a.m. hour of The Plank Show as I cut it up with Plank and Josh about everything in the world of Sooner and college football. That's every Tuesday and Wednesday on The Plank Show, and there's only one place to hear it. The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Download the KRF app today to listen from anywhere.
It's time for your certified most accurate forecast from KOCO5 First Alert Weather. Brought to you by Cavens Group. Do you have a water emergency? Give Cavens a call at 405-573-3048.
From the First Alert Weather Center, this is meteorologist Jonathan Condor with your KOCO5 News weather forecast. Looking like a beautiful afternoon. Highs very similar to yesterday, into the upper 70s, near 80 degrees, even with a north breeze at about 5 to 15 miles an hour. We'll have a sunny sky this afternoon. Tonight, light winds out of the north, overnight low down about 45 degrees. And then for tomorrow, maybe not quite as warm, but still very comfortable. North wind at 10 miles an hour, a sunny sky, high near 75.
That was your certified most accurate forecast from KOCO5 First Alert Weather, brought to you by Cavens. Did you have a water emergency that you fear might turn into mold? Give Cavens Group a call at 405-573-3048 or visit cavensgroup.com today.
More than 600,000 Oklahomans have disabilities. We can't afford to leave great employees behind just because they do things differently.
Who we are and what we accomplish
are much more important.
Hire an Oklahoman with a disability and gain dependability, commitment, and lower turnover. Reach out. Oklahoma Rehabilitation Services, okdrs.gov, 1-800-845-8476.
Imagine one step, and suddenly a fall turns into a fracture. For many, osteoporosis is a hidden threat, weakening bones silently until it's too late. At the Ortho Central Bone Health Clinic, we believe in personalized care to keep bones strong and resilient. Led by advanced practitioner Amanda Boyd, our team specializes in detection and personalized treatment plans, from bone density testing to strengthening bones after a fracture. Take charge of your bone health today. Call Ortho Central's Bone Health Clinic and let's build better bones together.
Hey, Mike Steely here for my good friends at Cavens Group. Spring temperatures are here and the threat of severe storms loom. Are you ready? Cavens can help you with water intrusion and inspections for mold. Also spring cleanup and yard cleanup with their 12-foot dumpsters. Don't wait for the water to expose your problems. Get ahead of it today with Cavens Group Spring Checkup. Call them today at 405-573-3048 or visit cavensgroup.com.
Whether you order in or order delivery at the 12th Avenue Chick-fil-A in Norman, it would be our pleasure to serve you and help with your team meals, class parties, or your next big events. Order nugget trays, sandwich trays, mac and cheese, and more. We've got you covered. And don't forget to try the Smokehouse Barbecue Bacon Sandwich or the Pineapple Dragon Fruit Drinks. Call the 12th Avenue Chick-fil-A at 405-310-3189 or use the Chick-fil-A One app. And remember to eat more chicken.
Oh boy. Doug and Norman chimed in on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Doug's been, how do I put this? He's been a little less cordial with his texts as of late. He hit the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line and said, I can't wait to hear the 18-year-old phenom and all of his quote-unquote sources tell me, a season ticket holder in college basketball since before he was born, all about basketball. Well, Doug, if you don't take interest in listening to this next segment, that's just fine. However, I think there are many that are looking forward to hear what Brody Lusk has to say about what Oklahoma's doing in the transfer portal and all of the insights therein. Obviously, 2 additions thus far for Oklahoma. 2 big additions in Tay Davis, the transfer forward from Notre Dame, and Nigel Pack, the transfer guard who came to Oklahoma originally from Kansas State by way of Miami most recently. And joining us now on the Riverwind Casino Jackpot line is Brody to discuss everything that Porter Moser and his staff are doing right now in the transfer portal as they rebuild their roster in preparation for what very well could be a 2025-26 tournament run with what they've already added. And I guess let's start there, Brody. In Tay Davis and Nigel Pack, those additions at face value, how much confidence does that give you in what Oklahoma will be capable of accomplishing in the SEC come the 2025-26 season?
Yeah, those 2 additions do give me some confidence in this team. I think quite literally those are the 2 best adds Porter Moser has had in the transfer portal in his time in Norman. You look at Tay Davis, he'll come in and, you'll run a lot through him offensively at the 4. Nigel Pack, really good shooter, can come in and, be kind of whatever you need him to be at guard. You need him to be a lead guard, he can do it. Do you need him to be kind of a secondary ball handler, shooter, he can do it. And so I think those are 2 good additions. And what's kind of cool is they're both from Indianapolis, know each other pretty well. And so those are 2 of what you're going to be your better players next year coming in who already have chemistry with each other. But I think those 2 additions paired with what they already have returning and some of the incoming freshmen, I think you're at a really good spot right now to potentially have, I think, another fringe NCAA tournament team, probably on the bubble. But if you can make some good additions and kind of build off this already good core paired with 2 really good transfers who are, performed at, a high major level, then I think right now Oklahoma basketball, Porter Moser are in a really good spot.
Where do you think, Brody, they go next in the transfer portal? You've got your point guard that can score. That'll be an approximation of Jeremiah Fears, even though Nigel Pack is significantly smaller than Fears. You've got a nice little wing addition with Tay Davis. What's the next priority for Oklahoma at this portal cycle?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I wouldn't be shocked if they went to go, looked at potentially adding a bigger lead guard who would play the 1. But right now I think you're looking for another 4 because you have Tay Davis there. But aside from Davis, you don't have anyone else who can play the 4. And so, I think adding a 4 is going to be a big priority. You need someone at center who's serviceable. And then you're going to have to add another starting level guard, whether that be a 1, whether that be a 2. I think you're going to have to add another guard who can start alongside Nigel Pack. But, so those are the things. And you want to add another wing, but they're bringing in transfer for a visit from UNC Wilmington. That's Kamari McGriff at 7 points, 4 rebounds there. He kind of fits the bill of another 4 who could play the 5, but I still think you would want to find another serviceable 5. So a 5, a 4, and then some help, at the 2 guard or point next priorities.
Now, Brody, let's talk about that 5 for a second, that center position, because Oklahoma's getting another year of Mo Wagi, right? And not only that, they're bringing in Kai Rogers, a very highly coveted prospect who's going to be a true freshman, right? And so the youth is certainly something that makes you a little bit skeptical as to whether he can have an immediate impact, but he's very, very talented, if nothing else. You said a serviceable 5. If you get a serviceable 5, is that guy, whoever he may be, the one that you would project as a starter for Oklahoma next season, or do you think Mo Wagi winds up in the starting 5?
Well, I think it's interesting because if you bring in someone serviceable, I really think it could go either of the 3 ways. I could see Wagi starting. I could see Kai Rogers coming in and starting, though I would probably expect him to start off the bench. So I think it would kind of be a situation where you bring in someone who's probably a similar level player to Mo Wagi that you would hope can limit foul trouble, because that's the one thing with Wagi is, he's very foul prone. And so if you bring in someone on that same level, I think it will probably just come down to who Porter Moser wants to start. Because I think right now, the way they're kind of looking at it is to get someone who's a very similar player to Wagi. So the way I see it, it could be either Wagi or whoever comes in the transfer portal. So I think it'll be interesting, but I also wouldn't count out Kai Rogers to start because, he's a very talented player who I think will fit really well in Moser's system. And, even though he's just 6'10", I think he's a little more like 6'9", he can shot block pretty well, and he kind of sets ball screens like they'd want him to. So I think he's a really good fit. But if you were making me bet today, I would say Mo Wagi starts at center.
And to that point, Brody, when we're talking about Kai Rogers, let's expand that to the other 2 freshmen that are going to be joining this freshman class, Andreas Holt and Alec Blair. When we're talking about the portal and we're talking about the freshmen, where do those 3 guys, you just mentioned Rogers, but where do the other 2 fit in, or even are they even a part of the plan in terms of having consistent playing time and consistent production this upcoming year?
Yeah, well, I'll say this. There's some people in that building that I've talked to that are actually more excited about Holst than Kai Rogers, and that's not a knock on Kai Rogers. It's just you have Andreas Holst, who's a 7-foot wing who can shoot it and dribble. You have him coming in, from overseas, and they're really excited about him. But he's not a one-and-done type of player. I mean, he's a multi-year guy. He has the physical tools. He has the athleticism, and his shooting, it's there. It's nothing where you bring him in and expect him to contribute from three-point shooting. But I think they're excited about the potential of his shot mechanics for someone who's 7 foot. On the wing, because most of the time you're 7 foot, you think that's a 5. No, Holst is probably a 3-4, and so I think there's really a lot to be excited about with him. I would kind of project from him. I would project about 10 to 12 minutes next year, but then you're looking, okay, you want him to start the next year, and so I think there's a lot to be excited about with him. Lots of potential with Holst, but he is a little bit far away. So I think, you bring him in. They're excited about him. Alec Blair, seems like he's leaning towards going to college. Very, very highly touted baseball prospect. And so it'll be interesting with him. I think on the wing, he could come in and make an impact. But with Jadon Jones, Jeff Wonkwo, and then you have Tay Davis playing the 4 and Andreas Holst, I don't see a ton of minutes for Alec Blair in year 1 at Oklahoma, personally. And so he would kind of be someone that I don't think will make too big of an impact next year, if any. And then you also got Cool Attack, who redshirted. And so it's going to be interesting on the wing. All 4 of those guys technically freshmen with Attack, Holst, Blair, and Rogers. And so it'll be interesting, but I think Holst and Rogers are going to be the 2 that that do make an impact next season on this roster.
Brody Lusk, Oklahoma Hoops reporter for OUinsider.com, is our guest. Brody, wondered if you could just go ahead and break down the roster math for everybody and explain why it's maybe not as intuitive and not as cut and dried as some may assume.
Yeah, so NCAA has now, your roster limit is 15. Last year, they did not have 15 players. They had 17, not scholarship players, but 17 players in total. This year, you have to have 15 players, and they can all be on scholarship, but if you want to have a walk-on, they also count towards that 15 limit. And so right now, where things are at, you have Reed Lovelace as a walk-on, so he counts to the number. And then you have C.J. Nixon, who could potentially play basketball, but the decision for him to play basketball and football was decided upon before this rule was put in place. So that is in question. I'm not sure kind of which way that'll go. But the way it stands right now, Oklahoma has, with the addition of Nigel Pack, 3 open roster spots if C.J. Nixon were to play basketball. So you have some decisions to make. Are you going to keep C.J. Nixon because he's taking up a spot, Reed Lovelace? So it kind of depends on what they decide to do with those 2 guys. But if they keep them, 3 spots. If they get rid of Nixon, 4 spots. That's how it stands right now.
What kind of changes do you think are going to be made in terms of how Oklahoma, and we're a long way off, I'm thinking into the future here, but the last couple of years, Oklahoma has started out the season red hot and then have kind of fallen back below earth once conference play has started. Is there anything over the offseason that the staff is planning on doing, do you think, that might help with that and alleviate that sort of a drop-off from non-con to conference play next year?
Well, I think one of the things with that, you would like to schedule a road game because I think what we've seen non-con-wise, it's been – so Battle for Atlantis last year, obviously you played great competition. That's the reason they made the tournament. Then you played Michigan. But aside from that, the competition – it wasn't great. They didn't have that other road game in there. And part of that was because Oklahoma State and Georgia Tech were not very good last year. But I do think one thing that could alleviate it is going on the road and playing high major opponent, playing, some mid-majors that are better mid-majors than the Lindenwoods of the world that they were facing last year. Because if you schedule a little bit better in those aspects, then, the jump to the SEC isn't going to be as high as it was this year. But I don't know that there's much they can do over the offseason because, you look at offseason kind of preparing for non-con, and they've done extremely well in that. But, yeah, I do think, obviously, bringing in veteran guys like Nigel Pack and Tay Davis who have been through the ringer, they won't be being led by a freshman point guard this year, so you shouldn't have as much ebbs and flows as they did this year. So I do think scheduling a little bit like a road game in the non-con and maybe some better mid-majors could help the jump to the SEC. But other than that, there's nothing specific that they're planning on doing.
Brody Lusk of OUinsider.com is our guest talking to Oklahoma hoops. Now, Brody, I halfway regret that it's taken me this long to ask the question, but it's kind of the question that everybody has right now after the Tay Davis and Nigel Pack additions. Those 2 guys don't show up to Oklahoma because Porter Moser offered them good parking spots. Where is all this money coming from all of a sudden?
Man, it's crazy. The money that they're paying for Tay Davis and Nigel Pack, you combine that, it's probably more than their whole roster, definitely more than their whole roster last season. So, I do think having like a Trae Young in the picture really helps. Obviously, he donates some money himself, but when you have these guys, you're like, you know what, like I think we could land X player, and then you have Trae Young go to the donors or go to whomever and pitch it to them. I do think it helps, but yeah, I think we're seeing Oklahoma actually start to compete in the NIL front in basketball, and you see what happens. They land a Nigel Pack, they land a Tay Davis, and they're still in on some big-time guys. I think it's just going to come down to how much more money can be mustered up for this staff. But, yeah, money-wise, they're not struggling as much this year. And the thing is, it's very interesting in college basketball. It's actually quite fascinating. So before July 1, all of these players, so let's just say hypothetically, let's say you paid a player, his deal was $2 million, and $400K of that is coming from rev share. That other 1.6, he has to get paid by July 1. And so now you're seeing all this money is going to get paid up front. And now you have dudes like Nigel Pack who are committing before a visit because schools have to spend their collective money before July 1. So they're rushing to get a spot at some of these schools. It's moved super fast because of that. And so it's been very interesting just to kind of see, like, Nigel Pack didn't even take a visit to Oklahoma. He committed. So, yeah, this has definitely been the craziest portal cycle as far as NIL is concerned. But also, look what happens when Oklahoma has some NIL. They're having a lot more success in the portal. And I'm very interested to see how much more NIL they can get when it comes to a few of these last roster spots or potentially some even bigger additions than what they've already brought in.
And to that point, Brody, when the donors look at Trae Young getting involved and all of a sudden, right off the bat, Tay Davis, Nigel Pack, two really, really highly sought-after transfers commit to Oklahoma, do you think that's going to start a spiral into some momentum and the donors will start, I don't want to say ponying up because it's not their responsibility, but getting more involved financially with the program to give Porter Moser the opportunity to go land all the ingredients that he might need to put together a team that can put itself firmly in the NCAA tournament field next season?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, it definitely helps because now some of these other players that they may want that, it may not have been financially feasible to bring in last year. Some of these other additions that they're wanting to make this year, if you go to the donor and say, look, you put this player with what we already have put in, it becomes a lot more enticing. And I think that's it's definitely going to build some momentum. And the fact that, they landed both of those guys so quick. There's still some other big fish out there in the portal that Oklahoma is in on. And I think the addition of Nigel Pack and Tay Davis makes it more enticing for, them to potentially go to a donor and say, hey, if we bring in this player, now we're not talking about a bubble team. We're talking about a team that could be a top 7 team in the SEC. And so it'll be interesting to see just who they can bring in because, they're on some guys like a Bryce Lindsey, James Madison, some guys that would really start to, take this roster to the next level. Because the way I see it right now, Nigel Pack and Tay Davis are two very good additions. But I do think, they're good enough additions to get you in the NCAA tournament. I don't think they're good enough to help you make a run in the NCAA tournament. And so now the question is, can they have enough money to go get some guys that would really round out the roster and give them a roster that could, finish in the top half of the SEC and make a run in March?
Brody Lusk, fantastic insights as always. Very much appreciate you making the time out of your day to join us here on The Ref to talk some OU hoops. Brody, I have no doubt we will catch up with you again soon. Thanks again.
Yep, thanks, guys.
All right. Man, fascinating stuff there. See, Doug from Norman? That's why we bring Brody on, because he can tell you all about the July 1st thing and how it's impacting Oklahoma's ability to go and pursue big-name transfers.
No clue about that, but it makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm. And once again, there's one man who covers OU basketball devotedly enough to know all of the nuances of situations like those. So thanks to Brody for being willing to jump on with us today here on The Ref. We're overdue for a timeout. Let's hit one. We'll wrap up the 12 o'clock hour next. You're listening to Steelman and Thune at noon. Keep it here on The Ref.
Hey, Sooner fans. This is Jalen Moore. You're listening to The Ref, the home of the Sooner fans.
Don't miss out on OKC's hottest entertainment at the Showplace Theater with acts like Boyz II Men, April 18th. America, April 26th. Patti LaBelle, May 2nd. And Scotty McCreery, May 10th. Riverwind is OKC's favorite casino experience.
OU softball, baseball, and gymnastics offer great opportunities for you to get out for some exciting action and support your Sooners. Going to an OU event or game? Balfour of Norman on Campus Corner invites you to stop by and get some new OU gear. Whether it's a softball jersey with your favorite player or just a new lucky shirt or hat to wear to the game, Balfour has everything you need to be in style and showing your colors. Cheer for the Sooners in the best and newest styles in Sooner sportswear. Locally owned for more than 45 years, Balfour continues to be Sooner fans' favorite OU store and has everything you need. Balfour has the latest styles and fashion trends for men, women, and children. You can find something for every Sooner fan. When it comes to hats, they have you covered with more than 100 styles to choose from. Even OU socks, so you're literally covered from head to toe. Graduation is right around the corner. They have OU diploma frames in stock. Or you can always get a gift card so they can choose the perfect gift for themselves. Come see us on the corner or shop online at crimsonproud.com, where you will find everything Sooner.
At Confidence Ford of Norman, we believe in living up to our name. Our commitment to confidence is in everything we do. Whether you're searching for the perfect vehicle from our extensive selection of new Ford models or pre-owned cars, our dedicated team will help you every step of the way. Because with us, you're family. We're conveniently located at 825 North Interstate Drive. Confidence Ford of Norman, a Cavender Auto family dealership where confidence is Cavender.
After a car crash, life can be hard. You're hurt, stressed, and then, when you need help the most, the insurance company doesn't care.
They drag their feet, question your injuries, and make things difficult. They put profits over people.
At McIntyre Law, we level the playing field. We take on the billion-dollar insurance companies so you can focus on what matters, getting your life back. Call us at 405-777-7000. You deserve better.
We all make choices about alcohol. Kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations, and they want honest answers in everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path, because when you talk, they hear you. Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Every day, we rise, challenging ourselves to work for what we believe in. At U.S. Border Patrol, protecting our borders is more than a job. It's a calling. Agents answer the call, working together to keep our country and communities safe. If you're ready for a new mission, join U.S. Border Patrol and go beyond. Learn more at cbp.gov/careers/Border Patrol.
At Primrose Funeral Service, we have been compassionately serving families for over 80 years. Do your loved ones a favor by pre-planning your funeral and cemetery arrangements. With pre-planning, Primrose can help eliminate the difficult decisions at a difficult time, because nobody should plan for a loss at the same time they are experiencing one. Our sincere commitment is to make things a little easier for you and your family. So contact Primrose Funeral Service at 405-321-6000 or visit them online at primrosefuneralservice.com.
It is Steelman and Thune at noon here on a Thursday. Minus the Steelman. He is at home in the comfort, the luxurious comfort of his 4,000 square foot mansion. Watching the Masters. In his stead today is Grayson Singleton. And of course, we are interacting with all of you on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line 405-651-3439. A 405 listener circling back around to the conversation that we had at the top of the show says, so the top two prospects in the tight end room right now have a total of 1 D1 catch and 2 D1 touchdowns. And the evaluator of this talent is the same brain trust that brought us Bowers Sharp. I feel so much better. Okay, first off, not to be actually guy, but it's not like Joe John Finley evaluated Jaron Kanek and said, yeah, give me that guy. Jaron Kanek decided, I'm going to switch to tight end because it's not really working for me at linebacker anymore. Joe John Finley didn't ask for Jaron Kanek. He just kind of got handed Jaron Kanek. And to this point, per everything we've heard out of Oklahoma spring camp, Jaren Kanak has been a pleasant surprise. Does that mean he's a 50-catch guy this fall? Absolutely not. But is he going to play meaningful snaps for Oklahoma at tight end? I'm telling you right now, that looks like a likelihood right now. So get accustomed to it. A 405 listener says the tight end room is a hoe. Another 405 listener asked, whatever happened to Josh Faneuil? Did he graduate? Josh Faneuil left the program at the beginning of last fall. So he has not been with the program since last August, I do believe. So, yeah, he was the walk-on former basketball player from Cameron University that moonlighted as a tight end for a couple of years at Oklahoma before walking away from football. So, not sure what became of him. Not sure if he's still at OU, just doing academics. But, yeah, Josh Faneuil no longer on the football roster. Grayson, as I mentioned at the beginning, we got the chance to talk to 6 Sooners last night after practice. And one guy that I think really faces a pivotal year for his individual career in 2025 is Gavin Sawuk. He's going to be a redshirt junior. Of course, we all remember that fantastic spurt that he had down the stretch in 2023 where he rushed for 100-plus yards in 5 straight games, had that long touchdown run against Oklahoma State, had that bowling ball touchdown run against BYU. Second half of 2023, as a redshirt freshman, Gavin Sawuk put quite the little highlight reel together.
Yeah, he did.
And then 2024 happened. And 2024 was not kind to any Oklahoma running back. I guess except maybe Xavier Robinson. But even Xavier Robinson only played, 3 games in any substantial capacity? Very brief cameos against Texas, against Ole Miss, and against Maine. But then he finally got some significant runs starting in the Missouri game in early November. But outside of that, no Oklahoma running back really had any success. The best game that any Oklahoma running back had all season was Javonte Barnes' 203-yard afternoon against Maine, which you expect to have no trouble running the football against a program like Maine. Gavin Sawuk, I genuinely do not recall what his final season stats were on the ground. I'm going to pull him up. He had a touchdown run in the bowl game. That was kind of nice. But in the 2024 season in total, Gavin Sawuk carried the ball, here you go, 39 times.
That was it?
39 times for 128 yards and 1 touchdown, averaging 3.3 yards per carry. So, the Gavin Sawuk that we saw in 2023, a far cry from the Gavin Sawuk that we saw in 2024. Can he shake back in 2025 and emerge as one of the head honchos in what feels like a pretty crowded backfield? Even if it's an unproven backfield, still a lot of guys that are more than capable of carving out playing time. Gavin Sawuk last night was asked, and you will hear his voice in this soundbite, he was asked by Barry Trammell about the adjustment process for him in a new offense as he's now going to be working under his 4th offensive coordinator at the collegiate level.
It's just about adapting. I mean, a lot of it, different coaching styles, different things. But as a player, you learn to be coachable. So, whoever's back there calling the plays, you got to find out, what their scheme is. You got to trust it, and you got to go out there and execute with everything you got. So, it's a little difficult, but it's not too hard. I mean, it's just at the end of the day, it's X's and O's, executing the play, lining up, getting out there, getting the job done that you can get done. And I'm excited to do that this year for Coach Arbo.
How much has the terminology changed? Is there anything held over from last season, or is everything new?
It's pretty much all new. I mean, he has his own terminology, his own ways of doing things, a lot of the same schemes. Sometimes you just can't get away from some of the base stuff. Everybody runs the same kind of base plays. But, it's different. It's different terminology, different things, but still similar to the same scheme. So it's good to kind of be able to, remember, this play was this last year, so now it's easy to remember it for this offense. But, it's good stuff, stuff that he can, help us to remember easily. So it's good.
I'm going to draw a very timely and relevant parallel, Grayson, in asking you this question. Are you buying the dip with Gavin Sawuk?
Am I buying the dip?
Yes.
So are you thinking, are you asking me, do I think that last year is indicative of probably what Gavin Sawchuk's going to be going forward.
I take it you don't own any stock. Would I be correct in making that assumption?
I do not own stock yet.
Okay, so buying the dip is a stock term. If you're buying the dip, to simplify it, you're buying low.
Buying low. Okay.
Yes.
The
gotcha. Stock dips, you buy, you wait for it to come back up.
When you said the stocks, I started to get where you were going. I don't know. Because especially the thing that makes it tricky with Gavin Sawchuk is the late season emergence of Xavier Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of things that we have to get ironed out before you would say you would buy low on Gavin Sawchuk.
Mm-hmm.
Number one is, who does Ben Arbuckle favor here in this whole situation? Where does Ben Arbuckle go? Who does Ben Arbuckle see the most upside in? That's the first question. And number two is going to be, is Xavier Robinson doing exactly what Gavin Sawchuk did last year? Because in 2023, Gavin Sawchuk was the hot hand at the end of the year, and he was presumed to be the guy coming into 2024. That seems to be the same trajectory that Xavier Robinson is on, this time in the expense of Gavin Sawchuk. So if that holds true, the answer is no. And if Ben Arbuckle also is seeing that trend, and if Ben Arbuckle's system favors Xavier Robinson a little bit more, and if that's the guy that Ben Arbuckle is going to clamor to DeMarco Murray to, hey, have this guy on the field 2/3 of the snaps or 60% of the snaps or what have you, then the answer is no. Even though the stock is low, you might want to pass on it when it comes to Gavin Sawchuk if those two things are the case.
See, you kind of outlined it there, but just to really hammer that point home, when you have a new offensive coordinator, past performance and past trends mean very little.
That's fair.
I mean, we saw this in 2024, right? If you had watched Oklahoma down the stretch in 2023, you would have concluded, okay, Gavin Sawchuk is going to be at the head of the table in 2024. That was not the case. And it had a lot to do with the fact that Seth Luttrell preferred one type of running back as opposed to the type of running back that Jeff Lebby preferred. And Ben Arbuckle, naturally, is going to prefer a different type of running back in his system for what he wants to do offensively at Oklahoma. And so I can't be sure, and none of us can be sure until we see it. I think, and I feel like, based on what I know of Ben Arbuckle and what he wants to do offensively at Oklahoma, Gavin Sawchuk seems like his type of back. Gavin Sawchuk and Taylor Tatum, to me, seem like the two guys that are the most ideal fits for what Ben Arbuckle wants to do. Now, that by no means would indicate that Javonte Barnes and Xavier Robinson are going to be chopped liver, because there's going to be a hefty amount of competition throughout the year, certainly for the right to start week one, but even throughout the season thereafter, there's going to be a ton of competition for playing time amongst that group. But if we're talking who gets the benefit of the doubt early, who gets the chance early to give up a starting job, I'd probably lean Gavin Sawchuk right now. It's a very, very difficult situation to evaluate, and I think that's part of the reason, Grayson, why you've said in the past it might be wise and it might be correct to predict that John Mateer will lead Oklahoma in rushing in 2025. We know that there's going to be a good deal of quarterback run game. Maybe not as much as there was at Washington State, maybe more. I don't know. Arbuckle's whole thing has always been this: the personnel is going to dictate the scheme. And so what does he feel like he has at the offensive skill positions? What does he feel like he has up front? And how does he feel that is conducive to the things that he has mapped out in his head that he wants to accomplish in operating with this group of players on the offensive side of the ball for Oklahoma? A lot to be determined. But Gavin Sawchuk, no doubt, is a guy that has talent. We've seen it in the past. Will the opportunities exist for him? Will they abound for him? in 2025. We're all eager to see. All right, that's a wrap on hour number 1 here on Steelman and Thune at noon. Another hour of OU Sports Talk on the other side. Thanks to Lasher Home Comfort Systems for sponsoring this hour. We'll return with much more. Keep it here.
Sound off any time of day on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439. Right here on the home of Sooner fans, the Ref Sports Radio Network.
For 3 generations, the John M. Ireland and Son Funeral Home and Chapel in Morris continued to serve the community by giving back to local schools, charitable organizations, and first responders.
We provide pre-planning for funerals and cremation services at the most reasonable prices.
We are proud to be a family-owned and operated funeral home.
Award-winning funeral home year after year, our family believes in serving the people of our community.
I'm John Ireland.
And I'm Solon Daniels.
You've got our word on it.
Tired of feeling pressured by salespeople when shopping for auto insurance? At Right Way Insurance, there's no hard sell, just a clear, straightforward approach. We work with multiple insurance companies to give you the best options and rates with no gimmicks. You'll get the right coverage tailored to your needs, all while avoiding hidden fees and confusing policies. So if you're ready for a better experience with auto insurance, visit rightwayinsuranceok.com or call 405-607-6014 for your free quote today. Right Way Insurance, no pressure, just the right insurance for you.
Speaking of technology, did you know that RK Black is an authorized dealer for Kyocera copiers? And the Kyocera copiers aren't just copiers. They're smart devices that can scan, print, fax, and email your documents with ease and security. Even better, they're backed by RK Black's award-winning service team that is built on nearly 70 years of taking great care of our clients. Whether you need a desktop printer or a multifunction copier, RK Black has the right product for you. Let's get the conversation started. Give us a call at 943-9800 or visit us at rkblack.com.
Are you looking for a luxury apartment for rent in Norman? The Falls at Brookhaven offers stunning 2- and 3-bedroom spacious floor plans with large walk-in closets, washer and dryer hookup, and a fabulous kitchen in a well-maintained, calm environment. From plush carpet to sleek stainless steel appliances to a pool, 24-hour fitness, and 2 dog parks, the Falls at Brookhaven has it all. Call our locally owned and operated community at 405-701-8233 or go online to thefallsatbrookhaven.com for a free tour and see what living in luxury is like.
Oklahoma-based Precision Fluid Power sells new and remanufactured hydraulic pumps, as well as repairs for virtually any hydraulic pump, motor, hydraulic servo valve, and cylinder. We serve all industries, large or small, regardless of what equipment you operate. Industrial, mobile, agricultural, construction. With over 150 years of expertise, the Precision Fluid Power team can provide solutions to handle all your hydraulic needs, local or out of state. Precision Fluid Power can help. PrecisionFluidPower.com.
Hi, everybody. Toby Rowland here for one of my favorite places to golf, the Trails Golf Club in Norman. The Trails offers great golf activities for the entire family, men's and ladies golf association events, summer junior golf for the kids, plus club fittings throughout the year. The Trails also has great family social events, monthly special dinners, plus holiday brunches and catering. When you're looking for the perfect place to golf, check out the Trails Golf Club in Norman. Contact Zane Alexander today at 405-364-3790 or visit trailsgolf.com.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
please be done.
Over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hornsdown Apple Pie Liquor is not your grandma's apple pie unless your grandma was a moonshiner with a PhD in flavor. This all-natural, 6-time distilled spirit is sure to light up any party, tailgate, or special occasion. Whether toasting a touchdown or yelling at the Yums because Spike was safe, Hornsdown Apple Pie is the perfect drink for celebrating the highs and lows of life in Oklahoma. Hornsdown celebrates all of you who cheer from the berm, tailgate on Lindsay Street, and wreak havoc on social media. You can find our red bottle at your local liquor store or search for your closest location at drinkhornsdown.com.
You're listening to the home of Sooner fans, KREF, Norman, Oklahoma, and streaming live on the KREF app. The Ref Sports Radio Network.
This is one of those days that I really, really hate the fact that we're on YouTube. Because I thought about bumping him in with Margaritaville because that's his lifestyle, or maybe Hotel California because he can check out anytime he likes, but he can never leave. We can't do either one because of YouTube, but joining us now, live from the comfort of his expansive sectional at the luxurious Steely Manor, from a couch that probably cost more than your house, it is none other than Staycation Steely. How we doing?
What a glorious day. What a glorious day. My butt has been parked on this couch all morning. I did come upstairs to do this little get-together with you guys, but I still have the Masters app on. Scotty Scheffler is one shot off the lead right now behind Tyrrell Hatton, but it's been great. I already had a pimento cheese sandwich. I got the green Masters cup out, for my beverages, which are all non-alcoholic, but it's been a great day so far.
Did you have to get those pimento cheese sandwiches shipped in dry ice? Did you actually get them from Augusta? If anyone would have a connection to pull that off, it would be you.
We didn't do it this year. You can do that, of course, by the Augusta home kit. But Shay surprised me 3 days ago when she got a grocery delivery. By the way, I got you some pimento cheese. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. So I don't mind a good pimento cheese sandwich.
Steely, what is the day or the days like when you're sitting at home watching the Masters? If you have to go get some food, is the food already pre-prepared? Are you door dashing when it's time to get the meals? Because I know you're not leaving the house to go get food. What's your process like when it comes to that?
Just like these golfers prepare on the range, I think Bryson hit 448 shots on the practice range, if I'm not mistaken. The practice facility is immaculate there. But everything's pre-planned. We've got all the snacks were pre-purchased. I know what the meals are going to be. There's very little wasted time, the occasional bathroom break, and that's it. And, of course, you can take now with the Masters app, the greatest app ever, hasn't skipped a beat once today, not one time. You don't miss any of the action. So, it's all about the preparation. You got to be prepared.
If you haven't figured it out by now, Grayson, this man spends 361 days a year preparing for these 4 days. Now, Steely, none of us are watching the Masters because, of course, we are all at work. Could you bring us up to speed on what has happened so far in the very first round of the tournament?
Well, Scotty Scheffler's one shot off the lead. He is currently on the 13th hole. He has birdied both the par fives, which you need to do. He birdied 2, he birdied 8. He made a 60-foot putt on number 4, which is not normally a birdie hole at Augusta at all. Although there have been more birdies than normal at 4 today, but a 60-footer on 4 is not something you expect. I would expect Scheffler to come in no worse than 68. That would give him one more birdie on the par fives. He could come in, at 65, 66. But I would think no lower than 68, which would be a great first round for him. Rory McIlroy is out there. He's on the 3rd hole. He had about a 10-foot birdie putt on the first hole. Really good drive, good iron shot. You're thinking, man, he's got this birdie look right here. What a great start. And he just didn't quite hit the putt, and it veered off to the right, so he makes a par there. Then he hits an errant drive. Most people would say Rory, if he's not the best driver of the golf ball, out there, he's certainly one of the top 2 or 3. And he hits it in the bunker on 2. So that's a birdie opportunity. Again, on 2, you need to birdie that hole if you can. Normally, if you're going to win the tournament, you better birdie that at least a couple times, maybe 3 times during 4 rounds, and he makes a 5 there. So we'll see what happens on 3. And you think about Rory's issues. He hasn't won there, obviously, looking for the career Grand Slam. We all know what happened on the 10th tee in 2011. He hasn't shot around in the 60s in the first round since 2016? He had a 69. 2011, when it looked like he was going to win the tournament, he opened with a 65. He has been even par or over par 9 times in his 16 rounds at Augusta National. So the first rounds have been an issue for Rory, but he just made a birdie on number 3 to get to 1 under par. So 3 is not a typical great birdie hole, so that's a pretty good recovery for Rory to get a birdie on 3. So he's at 1 under par, 3 strokes behind Tyrrell Hatton, who's at 4, and Scotty's at 3 under.
Sooner Soldier on the text line just chimed in, Steely, and said, golf is like watching grass grow. Now, here's my other question for you. Slim Brady on the text line, and if this is the case, this is my question too. Is Bryson DeChambeau not in a featured group this year?
I mean, he's one of the featured guys, the ones they have. We'll see what happens in the afternoon. You're going to see a lot of him in the afternoon anyway. And Bryson, by the way, is 1 under through 2. My guess is that Bryson, I would bet, birdied the second. Yeah, he birdied the second. But you're going to see a lot of Bryson. And coverage comes on at 2 o'clock our time. So you'll see plenty of Bryson DeChambeau. We had Scotty's group. He's playing with Joaquin Neiman and the amateur kid Ballester from Arizona State. And then you're also seeing Rory's group as well. He's playing with Oberg. And who else is playing with Rory? I already forgot. Old man problems. But you're going to see plenty of Bryson, and they'll probably pick him up on like the 6th hole at 2 o'clock.
All right.
He's 1 under so far through 2 holes.
We've stolen enough of your time, old man. Go eat some pimento cheese sandwiches and sink into the comfort of that couch.
Sooner Soldier, I understand golf's not for everybody, but the Augusta National Golf Club, baby, it's great viewing for me. I love it. I already got my order in today. I'll have a couple new hats delivered here soon, so I'm enjoying myself. Hope you guys are having a good day. And looks like it's shaping up pretty. Scotty Scheffler's playing great. And, Rory, at least he hasn't blown up yet, although he did miss that birdie on number 1. But good weather out there today. Should be a fun afternoon viewing session as well, I think.
We look forward to the Staycation Steely Report once again tomorrow. We'll talk to you then.
Let's do it. All right, guys. Have a good one. Talk to you tomorrow.
See you, bro.
Bye.
See, that's the thing. Obviously Masters Week is an event, an institution in and of itself for Steely. But the thing that everybody seems to forget, and that honestly none of the listening audience realizes, but now that we're on YouTube, they'll get to see it when he comes in on Monday. The week after the Masters is when Steely is legit dripped out.
What is Steely's version of being dripped out?
The brand new Masters
Is it
attire.
brand new? Is it brand new Masters attire?
Yeah, he'll show up with the new quarter zip, new hat. Who knows? Maybe he'll get the Masters Jordans this year. He will show up with a brand new apparel head to toe.
If Steely shows up on Monday in some Jordans, he is officially my favorite person on the earth.
He's not already?
Oh, he's top 10 right now.
There you go. Trending upward.
Yes.
On the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, as we get back to OU football here, and obviously we were having the conversation about the backfield at the end of last hour, Frisco Sooner says, guys, I know it's just my opinion, but I am extremely down on Sawuk and Barnes, and it wouldn't hurt my feelings if neither got a snap this year if Tatum and Robinson stay healthy. As a matter of fact, I think a case could be made for processing one of them, if not both. Take that money and hit the portal. You can't count on either of them. Okay, look, Frisco Sooner, it's fair for you to think that after last season, but I would also say this. Has your opinion of Gavin Sawuk and Javonte Barnes been too drastically altered by what happened in 2024? Because I will say this, and I don't think it takes a Rhodes Scholar to know this. It's a hard thing to be able to process and just keep in mind as we're having these conversations about the backfield day in and day out. But what happened in 2024 isn't all Gavin Sawchuk's fault. It's not all Javonte Barnes' fault. They had a piecemeal offensive line, to say the very least. Turnstiles up front is what it felt like at times. And a great point on the text line from Puerto Rican Sooner, who says, Sawuk is a patient runner. He has great vision. Last year, the O-line did not help him a bit. And it's a great point. And when you go back to 2023, Oklahoma's offensive line play was fantastic down the stretch of that season. And you saw some of Sawchuk's biggest runs, right, where when he was allowed to just kind of sit back for a second, allow everything to open up at the line of scrimmage, and then hit that hole with gusto. And so if the offensive line play is improved for Oklahoma in 2025, Grayson, I worry a lot less about Gavin Sawuk than I do about Javonte Barnes, quite frankly, because Barnes is the guy who in the past has shown that he's quite the opposite, right? He's kind of an impatient runner.
Yeah.
He is much less inclined to sit there and wait for those holes to open up.
And I think also part of this text, which why I find it interesting for Frisco Sooner, is the point that the best ability is availability.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be real, Javonte Barnes has not been that available consistently for the better part of his career at Oklahoma. Gavin Sawuk dealt with some bumps and bruises last year. And also to this point, too. And this was a little bit of the case when we talk about patient runners. I think the ultimate patient runner in the last decade or so in the NFL has been Le'Veon Bell. But if you
Has he played in the NFL within the last decade?
That's a good point.
Oh, my
It's now
goodness. 2025. It feels like forever
I
since-
feel old. Okay, anyway, my point being is that if you have to predicate the success of Gavin Sawuk on your offensive line being awesome, I can see where the reservations start to come in. So I don't think you're totally off base with that. I don't know if they'll process both of them. I think that's a little bit far-fetched at the back half of that text. But I do think one guy, you've got to concern about availability. The other guy, you got to concern about, does everything have to be perfect for you to be really good? And that can bring some reservation onto the fan.
I will say the one guy in this backfield that amidst what might be considered dire circumstances last year proved that he can make something out of nothing with a great degree of regularity was Xavier Robinson.
Yes.
Right, because Xavier Robinson was running behind the same offensive lines that all the other backs had been running behind up until that point. But even when it felt toward the end, like not everybody, but there were certainly, it felt like there was an element to just being checked out on the season. Even amidst all of that, Xavier Robinson, he showed up and he ran with some desire. Man, he injected some life into that offense. And by the way, I don't mean to imply that like the coaches or the players were checked out on the season, but it was just kind of a collective malaise that had descended upon the Oklahoma fan base and upon Oklahoma football in general, because it was a lost season. Everybody realized, I think, after the Texas game that it was a lost season and there was only so much that you were going to be able to salvage. But Xavier Robinson, what he did down the stretch, especially in that Missouri game when Oklahoma had absolutely nothing going offensively, it's remarkable. And that's why, I would say if there's a leader in the clubhouse going into 2025, there's a Masters analogy for you. It's probably Xavier Robinson. Because, again, until you see it with the offensive line, you don't want to count on it. And he's the guy that demonstrated last year he can make something out of nothing when there is nothing there. Sooner Soldier on the text line says, I agree somewhat with Frisco Sooner. Barnes, regardless of how good the line is, doesn't know how to avoid contact. As soon as somebody hits him, the run is over. He needs to have a little wiggle in his running. Reformed Homer asks, have any of the running backs game in and game out been close to what fans have expected over the past few years? Broadly, generally, no. The last time Oklahoma from start to finish in a given season had a running back that they could count on to deliver and to produce, it was Eric Gray in 2022. That feels like a long, long time ago. That feels like a long time ago. It's only 3 seasons, but it feels like forever. It feels like even longer, and that's probably why when your football team collectively just isn't having a ton of success. Okay, keep firing away with your thoughts, questions, opinions on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Loving the interaction so far. On the other side Got a few more Sooners that we're going to hear from that met with the media last night. Some real insightful comments from Michael Fasusi, from Jaden Hardy, from Taylor Wine, and others. This hour of the show brought to you by Hightower Clinical. Again, Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line always available at 405-651-3439. Come back with us on the other side for more OU talk here on the Ref. You're listening to Steelman and Thune at noon. Keep it here.
Your back-to-back national champion Oklahoma softball team is coming to OKC. The Sooners host Game 1 of their series against the Mississippi State Bulldogs at Devon Park in OKC on Friday, April 18th. Come see the best college softball in the best conference on the biggest stage in prime time. Tickets are available at Soonersports.com/tickets, and we'll see you at Devon Park on April 18th at 6:30 p.m.
Every day, 32 people in the U.S. lose their lives in crashes involving a drunk driver. That's one life every 45 minutes.
The victims aren't just numbers. They are mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters whose lives are forever changed.
From life-threatening injuries to years of recovery, the aftermath of a drunk driving crash can be devastating. If you or a loved one have been hurt by a drunk driver, you don't have to face it alone. Call McIntyre Law at 405-777-7000.
Life is yours to spend. Spend it making more money. Spend it making more memories. Spend it learning a new skill. Spend it teaching an old trick. Spend it career climbing. Spend it mountain climbing. First United Bank. Spend life wisely.
Hey Sooner fans, this is Audrey Davis with the 6-time national champions OU gymnastics team. Thank you to all the fans who have supported us this season. We wouldn't be where we are without our incredible coaches, the team, and of course, Team 10. Team 10 is the backbone of our program, helping provide the resources so we can compete at the highest level. As a Team 10 member, you will receive unique experiences that you wouldn't otherwise receive. Go to Soonersports.com to become a Team 10 member today. Boomer!
I'm State Farm Agent Julia Chu, and you already know our office is a place to turn for your insurance and financial needs. Now that place has changed to 701 Wall Street. While the location may have changed, the commitment of our team is as strong as ever. So whether you already know us or want the one-of-a-kind service offered by the Julia Chu Agency, call us at 329-3311 or come visit at our new location, 701 Wall Street, right on the corner of Boardwalk and Wall Street in Norman.
It doesn't seem possible, but we're celebrating our 50th anniversary at Markham's Nursery this spring. Back in 1975, our family started our business down on the farm in Washington, Oklahoma. A lot of things have changed since then, but the honest and appreciative way Bill Industries serve their customers hasn't changed a bit. Seasoned gardener or just getting started, we can help make your landscape or garden a success. Come celebrate our 50th with the folks who know how to grow in Oklahoma, Markham's Nursery.
Markham's Nursery, just add the sun.
Vance Country Ford in Guthrie has been creating satisfied customers for over 40 years. How? The Vance family personally ensures that every customer receives personal, no-nonsense sales and service. And did you know, Ford F-Series trucks have been America's best-selling trucks for 48 years. Right now, receive low APR financing and leasing for as little as $426 per month for a new Ford Maverick XLT all-drive Super Crew, and as little as $746 per month when you purchase a new Ford F-150 XLT four-wheel drive Super Crew. Plus, get a free lifetime powertrain guarantee, good for as long as you own your truck. So come to Guthrie at I-35 exit 153 or shop VanceAutoGroup.com. Remember, Vance Country Ford in Guthrie. See dealer for powertrain guarantee details. Lease for 10,500 miles or 48 months. Buy at 84 months at 5.9% APR. Additional cash due at signing with approved credit.
Get the laugh track ready, Grayson. We don't actually have a laugh track, I don't think. I wish we did for moments like this. Steelman and Thune at noon. Steely is, of course, out today. Back home at Steely Manor watching the Masters. Grayson Singleton, Parker Thune with you here on the Ref. I will read you this tweet verbatim.
Oh, no.
Tennessee and Nico Iamaleava are in active contract negotiations ahead of the 2025 season. It is unclear if the negotiations will impact whether he enters the spring transfer portal.
Oh, no.
Folks, this is where we're at in college athletics. A university and its quarterback, I think it's pretty well known at this point that they paid a hefty sum of money back in the day for Nico Iamaleava's commitment. That particular university and Nico Iamaleava himself are now in active contract negotiations that might culminate in his entry into the transfer portal.
Goodness gracious. When you read the first part of that tweet, I was like, okay, cool. I mean, we need contracts. I feel like that would smooth a lot of things over with the way players are up and leaving at random times. But here's the dark side of contracts. Sometimes negotiations go south, and they go south fast. If Tennessee loses Nico Iamaleava, at least for the foreseeable future, they are screwed.
You think so?
I
actually don't.
Well, what's the backup plan? Who's the quarterback behind Iamaleava?
Let us examine the Tennessee depth chart.
And because even if you're not screwed, and that could be a touch hyperbolic, now all of a sudden you've got to get a new quarterback ready to start in a less amount of time because now the spring camp is now over.
I didn't want to speak out of turn, but I was correct. It is Jake Merklinger that's the backup quarterback at Tennessee. They also have George McIntyre, whom I believe was a 5-star recruit, true freshman.
So you've got you've got some talent, you've got some raw talent, unproven, and now they have less time. At the minimum, Tennessee is behind the 8 ball. If they lose Iamaleava.
To the point where you're probably bringing in a veteran portal quarterback.
But
if you lose Nico.
But how good is a veteran portal quarterback in the spring cycle, though?
The great thing about how the world works these days in this era of college football, and it's unfortunate that this is the case, but especially if you're a program like Tennessee, it doesn't really matter who's available in the portal.
You can just go
you
grab
can
somebody.
make somebody available.
Yeah.
You can make somebody available, which if Oklahoma lost out on Nico, that's probably what they would do. Because, look, and I'm not going to throw any exact numbers out there, not my place to do so. Nico's making insane money right now at Tennessee. The fact that there are even negotiations going on, to me, demonstrates that there's just a total misunderstanding of his actual worth relative to market value. Because I guarantee you, if Nico were to enter the transfer portal, Tennessee could go coax another capable quarterback into the portal and sign him for much less.
That is fair.
And here's my thing. When I watched Nico Iamaleava last year at Tennessee, I did not see a guy that in and of himself elevated that offense. Right? Like, he felt to me like somebody who's highly replaceable. Is that an incorrect assessment?
I don't think it's incorrect as much as I do believe it's a touch premature because he was a freshman.
He was.
So I do think there is more to come from it. I mean, let's talk about how many freshman quarterbacks last year looked irreplaceable.
Oklahoma had one. He looked very replaceable. In fact, he was replaced.
Exactly. Exactly my point. And Nico was better than both. Nico performed better. His peak last year was better than both Jackson Arnold and Michael Hawkins. I don't think that's an out-of-left-field thing to say. But not only are we talking about freshmen at quarterback, but there weren't a whole lot of freshmen overall that looked like that were elevators. I mean, Ryan Williams was an elevator. Jeremiah Smith was an elevator. Eli Bowen, you could potentially put in that conversation as well. So I think it's a little premature to say that he's not going to be a guy to elevate the program. What is correct is that if he's wanting a raise, a significant raise based off of last year, now you're talking about something that is a little bit bananas.
By the way, as I look back at the 2023 recruiting class and a group of quarterbacks that we all figured, okay, like this is the deepest group of quarterbacks that we have seen in years. There are studs aplenty in this 2023 recruiting class at the quarterback position. Of course, the discourse in the Oklahoma circle back then was, man, Lincoln took Malachi Nelson with him. We going to be able to replace Malachi Nelson? Who's going to be the better option, Jackson Arnold or Jaden Rashada? That was the conversation in Oklahoma circles circa winter, spring 2022. Between Jackson Arnold, Jaden Rashada, and Malachi Nelson,
oh boy,
the answer, Grayson, was hell no. That was the correct answer. Folks, I regret to inform you that all those national recruiting analysts and scouting personnel that so many of y'all were making fun of throughout the calendar year 2022 might actually have been correct, because you remember who their number one quarterback in the 23 class was?
Oh, goodness gracious.
You're going to kick yourself.
Who was this?
Arch.
Yep.
Arch.
Mm-hmm.
Followed by Nico, Dante Moore, Jackson Arnold, Malachi Nelson, Jaden Rashada, a couple guys named Aiden Childs and Austin Mack. Avery Johnson, he's been all right. He's been
fine.
pretty solid at Kansas State. And Christopher Vizina, who is backing up Cade Klubnik at Clemson. Folks, they might have been right about Archman.
You know why that didn't come to my mind as soon as you asked the question?
Why is that?
Because I was never one of those people that got why people were making fun of Arch Manning being the number one quarterback. I never understood why people looked at that and thought, you know what, let's ridicule the people who think that the nephew of Eli and Peyton Manning being the number one quarterback is some asinine development.
Yep.
Like that made no rhetorical sense to me.
There was a lot of dragging going on. I myself probably participated. No, you know what? I definitely participated.
Yeah,
at least on a few occasions.
I'll
be honest. Like, I didn't buy into Arch being the number one. I thought he was a blue chip. I thought he was one of the best quarterback prospects in the country. I didn't feel like he was number one. I felt like that was overinflated due to his last name, and that was a pretty common sentiment. There were certainly folks on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line that were saying he'd be a 3-star if his last name wasn't Manning, that was just untrue. Like, if you watch the film, okay, yeah, small school competition in Louisiana. Yeah, his last name's Manning, but he's pretty objectively a good player with some very projectable abilities at the next level. But, man, looking back on that 2023 quarterback group now, it is a wasteland, man. That group that we thought was so full of absolute studs at quarterback. And, we talk about Arch maybe being the best of the group. We don't even really know what Arch is going to be yet. But somehow, Arch Manning and his grade of incomplete seems to be superior to a lot of those other big-name signal callers that he graduated with in the 23 cycle.
And now I think people are finally starting to realize Arch is probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah, well, and what we probably all didn't regard significantly enough at the time was that Sark is really good at his job, and he makes life pretty easy on his quarterbacks. He made Quinn Ewers look good. Not great, but good. And Quinn Ewers...
And I'll tell you what.
Quinn Ewers is not all that. If we're just talking like sheer physical ability, there's a lot more of it with Arch than there is with Quinn Ewers.
And I'll tell you what. If he made Quinn Ewers look good, he's going to make Arch a Heisman candidate. I don't mind being early on that.
You're right.
We can check back, and it may not be this season either. But we can check back in 10 months or 22 months. I don't mind making that early assumption. I think Arch Manning will be in New York for the Heisman ceremony before it is all said and done.
Dan in Madison, Mississippi says, I think a lot of it is because of all the evaluations that are done during 7-on-7. 7-on-7 is not real football. Well, it's funny you bring that up, Dan, because that was very famously the one thing that Arch never did. He never played 7-on-7. All the other guys played 7-on-7. Arch just played on Friday nights, and that was it. He didn't do Elite 11. He didn't show up to any major camps. He was he did a couple camps on college campuses, like school-specific camps. I remember he had camped out at Clemson, if I recall correctly. But, that's it. Arch was not a 7-on-7, not a camp guy.
Which should make them which should make all those recruiting sites having him as the number one player that much more believable. Mm-hmm. Because that ranking is not inflated by 7-on-7 fake football.
By the way, out of sheer curiosity, I was doing a little bit of scouting behind enemy lines last night, reading the Auburn message boards. Grayson, Jackson Arnold's in a legit quarterback battle down there.
I've heard this.
Yeah.
I've heard this.
With a true freshman. Deuce Knight.
Yeah. Who they really like down there.
Now, Deuce Knight is really good.
He is very good.
He is really good. 6'5", left-handed thrower, highly athletic. Good prospect, but I certainly didn't count on Deuce Knight giving Jackson Arnold a fight in spring camp for the starting job at Auburn University. And Ashton Daniels hasn't even gotten there yet, the Stanford transfer. He gets there in the summer. And apparently, the bugaboo with Jackson Arnold in spring ball down at Auburn is the exact same bugaboo there was for him at Oklahoma last spring. Interceptions.
What kind of irreparable damage did Seth Littrell do to this guy?
I genuinely don't know, man. And the thing is, last year was just so bad that we may never know, right? How much of it is for lack of a better parallel, the PTSD of everything he dealt with Seth Littrell and that Oklahoma offensive line in the disastrous 2024 season, and how much of it is just, Jackson Arnold's actually not as good as advertised.
I think there's a little bit of that too, but I do think there is a certain thing as irreparable coaching malpractice. And I said this on these airwaves all the time during the season. I kept coming back to the fact that whether it was Michael Hawkins or Jackson Arnold, they did not look like they were coached properly from a positional standpoint. And now you're in a situation where you potentially have to unlearn all of that before the new coaching, no matter how quality it is, can take hold. I think there's a reasonable expectation that Seth Littrell just screwed this guy up to a point where it may just not be reversible.
That might wind up being a great debate 5 years down the road. Was it Jackson Arnold or was it Seth Littrell? Frisco Sooner on the text line says, agree, Grayson and Parker, like it or not, Arch Manning is a great talent who probably has the biggest upside of any quarterback in college football right now. Can't stand it, but it is true. And I think that's the way to phrase it, right? He certainly does have the biggest upside. That is due, certainly, in large part to just the sheer talent that exists. He not only is a really good thrower of the football, he's surprisingly mobile, and you saw that last year in the limited action he got, but also, I think, more primarily due to the fact that he's in Steve Sarkisian's system.
Well, yeah, and back to Sarkisian, Mojo Eraser on the text line. Please stop with the Sark crap. Texas barely had a top 25 offense last year with a senior talented O-line and skills. Here's why I hate that argument, and a lot of people make it. It's not this isn't personal, but that takes into account all of Division I. You look at the teams ahead of Texas. North Texas is in there. They don't play anybody. New Mexico's in there. They don't play anybody. Texas State is in there. They don't play anybody. Utah State is in there. Boise State's in the Mountain West. UTSA is ahead of them. Memphis, Washington State, Southern Alabama and Jacksonville State. So there are so many non-Power 4 schools that aren't playing good people that are in there. Not to mention UCF is in there. Did you watch UCF? They had a lot of garbage time yards. So this isn't the NFL where you can just look at just straight up yards per game and points per game and everything is weighed the same. It's not. You got to watch the games. And if you're a denier that Steve Sarkisian, if he's not the best, is the second or third best offensive play caller and play designer in college football, I don't know what college football you're watching.
He's very objectively one of the finest offensive minds in the sport right now, if not number one. A 918 listener says, here's the logic I just don't understand. Why is it that every Oklahoma position group that we don't know about yet is a concern, but Arch Manning, whom we also don't know about, is going to be great? Well, look, I don't think anybody said Arch Manning is going to be great.
Projecting upside.
If you're projecting the upside and you're also mindful of the fact that, to go back to the original conversation, the bar is very low to outpace all of those other quarterbacks in the 2023 cycle that he came out with, there's reason to believe that when all is said and done, it might actually be Arch that has the best college career of any of those guys, which I probably wouldn't have counted on, but maybe I should have. I don't know how you could have foreseen what's gone on with Jaden Rashada's career, with Jackson Arnold's career. Malachi Nelson's downfall was a little bit more foreseeable, but even so, he was very justifiably regarded as a 5-star talent across the industry. If Nico were to leave Tennessee, to close the loop on this whole conversation, I have a guess as to where he would go.
I do too.
Let's see if we're on the same wavelength. What's a school that's in desperation mode right now and also has his brother on the roster?
Oh, I forgot he had a brother playing college football. Where's he at?
The University of Arkansas.
Ooh.
Would Arkansas be willing to throw a massive bag at Nico in order to try and salvage this thing?
You know who I was thinking? It was another SEC school, and I'm trying to look at what their quarterback situation is right now.
Who came to mind?
Georgia. Is there something I'm missing with Georgia's quarterback situation that would prevent Nico Iamaleava from being there?
No, it's very unsettled.
Exactly.
Very unsettled.
And I don't think any of the quarterbacks there have a higher upside than Nico does.
Yeah. And then the question becomes, from a business standpoint, do you want to go to Georgia? Because, who's the best quarterback in Georgia history? Matthew Stafford?
That's a pretty good one.
Yes, pretty good at the NFL level, certainly. But at the college level, he was just kind of a guy.
Valid.
So Georgia is not known. And here's the really fascinating thing about Georgia.
But is Arkansas?
Well, no, they're not really either. But what I'm saying is, they're in such desperation mode that I can see them going above and beyond to make him a huge offer.
Yes.
Georgia's in a position where they don't have to go get Nico. They're going to be fine, regardless. A really cool little factoid with the University of Georgia. You know how many 1,000-yard receivers they have had in the history of their program?
None.
One.
Yeah.
I forget what the guy's name was. They had Brian Edwards, if memory serves me correctly. He had 1,004 yards in a season in the early 2000s. He's the only Georgia receiver ever to cross the 1,000-yard threshold.
It's wild.
Not a pass-first team, never been one.
It's wild that A.J. Green never had 1,000.
Chris from Knoxville says, watch the Sand Aggies throw an ungodly number at Nico and have Mahomes pitch it. Maybe if they see him as a missing piece, but I actually really, really like a couple of the quarterbacks that Tech has on their roster right now, and Baron Morton, who's their projected starter, and then redshirt freshman Will Hammond is another guy that I think is going to be really, really good. Okay, we are overdue for a timeout. Let's hit a break, pay the bills. When we return, we will wrap up Steelman and Thune at noon on the Ref. Keep it right here.
Bleed Crimson? Love great Sooner talk? Join the Ref Army by downloading our free app. Toby and TJ, Plank and Josh, Steelman and Thune, and Teddy and Tyler. We have the Sooner experts. The Ref is home to Sooner fans worldwide.
The Artesian Hotel, Casino and Spa in Sulphur is the perfect getaway, nestled within a community rich in history. Stay in our luxurious hotel or treat yourself to our world-class spa facilities. Enjoy fine dining in our restaurant or try your luck in the casino. The shops at the Artesian offer upscale boutiques with a wide array of items to choose from. We have something for everyone. Plan your getaway on the Artesian website or call for details at 855-455-5255. The Artesian Hotel, Casino and Spa, 1001 West 1st Street, Sulphur, Oklahoma.
Exciting news for car buyers in Norman and surrounding areas. Sooner Kia of Norman is under new management with new construction coming soon. At Sooner Kia, they believe that every customer deserves excellent service and expert knowledge about their incredible Kia models. Whether you're interested in the sleek K5, the versatile Sportage, or the eco-friendly EV9 or EV6, they've got you covered. Join the Sooner Kia family today and discover how they're making car buying in Norman and OKC easier and more enjoyable than ever. Visit SoonerKia.com, where great deals and exceptional service meet.
Entrepreneurs and More Norman in South Oklahoma City have an experienced business partner in their neighborhood. More Norman Technology Center's workforce and economic development team understands the challenges entrepreneurs and small businesses face every day. From building an effective business model to hiring the right employees and managing cash flow, More Norman's business development experts can help you move forward confidently and thrive, knowing that you have a skilled partner at your side. Learn more about More Norman's Technology Center by calling 405-801-5000 or visit us online at mntc.edu.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
It's that time of year to get to the ballpark, and that's something to smile about. Craig and Straight Orthodontics wants to help you and your family every step of the way to a beautiful smile. Craig and Straight has 3 conveniently located offices in Norman, Mustang, and South Oklahoma City. Check out their website at craigandstraight.com or give them a call to schedule your free consultation. You'll soon be on your way to a smile that you have always wanted. At Craig and Straight Orthodontics, we want to see you smile, Oklahoma.
Retirement can be scary, but only if you're not prepared. That's why AARP created thisispretirement.org. Because unless you've already retired, you're in pretirement, and you still have time to plan. Learn about retirement savings options, potential tax breaks, and how you can build savings over time. Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan and feel the retirement fear disappear. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Dear hero, whoever you are, you save lives. I live with sickle cell and the pain and the issues that come along with sickle cell every day. I'm most grateful that people are willing to go out there and take their time, their blood, and give me new life. Because of you, I'm allowed to see my son grow up.
Giving equals living. Give blood. Replenish the supply. Learn more at hhs.gov/giveblood. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Parker Thune, Grayson Singleton here with you on the Ref. Time for the end of show news dump. One of my favorite prospects in the state of Oklahoma in this 2026 class just came off the board. Emery Snyder out of Bixby.
Oh, where's he going?
Committed to West Virginia.
Okay.
Which, good for him. They had long prioritized him. Obviously, I think when you look at his offer sheet, that was probably the best offer that he had to this point, which I don't know how. I think he is criminally underrated right now. But he comes off the board to West Virginia. He is committed to the Mountaineers as of earlier today. Shout out to friend of the program, TJ Eckert, who just announced on Twitter less than an hour ago that he is moving on from KTUL TV in Tulsa after 7 years with the station. So he said he's going to announce soon what is next for him. But regardless, TJ, wish you all the best. I have no doubt that we will have him on the show plenty more times, regardless of what the next step is for him, whether it is in or out of journalism. He is he might be the OG friend of the program. Like, I think he may be, I'm trying to think, have we been having him on regularly since the very inception, August of 2021? If he hasn't been coming on with us for that long, it's been close to it. Elsewhere, and I guess here is where I want to get back to our availability sessions last night with some of the Oklahoma players. We talked last segment about Nico Iamaleava and his quote-unquote active contract negotiations with Tennessee, and it's a mercenary world in college football right now. One of those guys at the University of Oklahoma, though, you've never had to worry about where they're going to be, never had to worry about their love for the university and their desire to rep the Crimson and Cream and rep it well, Ethan Downs. Ethan Downs is probably going to hear his name called in the NFL draft later this month. Yet, amidst all of the preparation that goes into the NFL draft for an individual such as himself, he has been out at practice regularly with Oklahoma over the last several weeks, helping Miguel Chavis coach the defensive ends. He was doing so again yesterday, and when we got to talk to Oklahoma defensive end Taylor Wine, he discussed the room as a whole and Ethan Downs' impact on it as he lends a hand to Chavis.
Tell me a lot. Even to this day, even though he's still not in this program, he's still around. It feels like he never left. So just taking on, delivering that leadership role. He was a big leader. He was a big-time part of our defense last year. And so I'm trying to follow in his footsteps and elevate my game and take on that kind of leadership role and being someone to the younger guys that they can come to and help in like a way of like teaching them how we do what we do. I think on the whole D-line, we're stacked. We got a lot of elite talent. I think a lot of younger guys are stepping up, taking a big role. Just off the top of my head, Wyatt Gilmore, Shield Knight, Danny Okoye. Adepoju's been here, but this he's going to be a dude. We got guys that a lot of talented, especially in the interior as well. Returning guys that are coming back. They're going to be a big part of what we have in the front seven. So we're just excited to showcase what we have.
That's Taylor Wine commenting on Ethan Downs and the defensive end room as a whole. Obviously, a lot to prove there for really everybody not named R. Mason Thomas. Even Marvin Jones, who's played some at the FBS level, the P4 level, made an impact at the P4 level and was a 5-star recruit. He's going to have 1 year at Oklahoma to prove that opposite R. Mason Thomas, he can produce and that he's worthy of being drafted by an NFL organization. Also got the chance to talk to Michael Fasusi, and love Michael Fasusi, man. He's always so much fun whenever we get him in an interview setting. One of the most poignant things he said last night, Grayson, and it isn't included in the soundbite that we're about to play, but he said, and I quote, "I'm not a 5-star anymore." That's a dude who gets it.
That's an attitude.
That's a bar right there.
That's an attitude that you got to have right there.
Here's what Michael Fasusi did say when we talked to him last night.
That's one thing I've noticed is coming. If it's not hard, then it's not worth it. If it's hard, then it's worth pursuing it. It's worth getting better because of it. And I'm glad it's hard because I want to get better because if it's easy, then it's not going to do the job.
That sounds like somebody who listens to his mother.
Come on, man. Talking about a guy that's saying all the right things so far.
And to me, it's more than saying just all the right things because it seemed like he actually believes that in his soul, what he's saying, too.
Mm-hmm. He does. He's a very transparent, very, very faith-driven kid, and, you kind of see that influence in the way that he goes about his business. And make no mistake, he's walking the walk so far. He's not just talking the talk. He's a guy that, depending on what happens in fall camp, Michael Fasusi may make it tough on Bill Bedenbaugh and the Oklahoma coaching staff to keep him on the bench in year one. You may see him at some point. And I'm one of those that has said I don't really have that expectation, but he's been good so far. He's impressed a lot of the people in that building. He's ahead of schedule. He's ahead of the curve. Looks great physically. Continues to add good weight. A lot to like about that kid's trajectory. Man, he could be a legit cornerstone for this offensive line a lot sooner than later. We also caught up with Kendall Daniels and Jaden Hardy, two defenders that, unsurprisingly, were asked specifically about the Oklahoma offense and what it's been like going up against that unit so far. When we talked to Hardy, he shouted out John Mateer specifically as somebody that has made it very, very difficult on the defense and especially the secondary to account for all of the things that he can do well.
John Mateer, he's a dude. He's a competitor, and, he just wants to go out there and push everybody to their limit. So, having that guy, seeing him every day, go against him and compete against him has definitely made the defense better. I feel like he's a savvy football player. He's very smart, always keeping his eyes on the swivel, trying to see, where the safety's doing, who's blitzing, who's not. Like I said, he's just a very smart quarterback. He's a competitor, like I said, so just having to play against his mind and try to confuse him, that's probably one of the hardest things I've had to do, and I said, it's probably, yeah.
And I won't scoop Kendall Daniels on this, but it does sound a lot better coming out of his mouth than mine. But he was asked what he thinks of the offense so far, and this was his description of the Oklahoma offense as he has seen it on the practice field.
They're good as hell. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy just Coach Arbuckle, the way he calls plays, the way he uses everybody. It's hard to really go against and really figure them out because they have so many different things. And, going against John and Mike, them guys, they can run the ball. So that's a different aspect of the game that you have to bring into account. So just going against guys like that, I mean, it's great for the team.
Now, if you couldn't hear the beginning of that soundbite due to all the power tools that were running in the background.
Hey, what kind of vacuum is going on back there?
Kendall Daniels called the offense, and I quote, "good as hell." Now, that means a little bit more coming from a guy like Kendall Daniels because he's seen some good offenses in his day. He was a 4-year contributor on the defensive side of the ball at Oklahoma State. So he's played Power 4 football for 4 years. The guy knows what good offense looks like, Grayson.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's no stranger to it. And, I mean, he just was on the same team with, a Doak Walker Award-winning running back. So that's encouraging. That is encouraging that the offense looks that cohesive this early in the process with a new offensive coordinator and a new quarterback working with new receivers that are also trying to be reshuffled because none of them are healthy. So, there's a lot of things working against the offense that is just natural progression with hiring new people and whatnot. But the fact that they're making life a little bit difficult on a very good defense certainly that's not concerning. That's encouraging.
And here's what I'm sensing. Look, there are some very rightful, very justifiable questions about the offense right now. But from the things that we continue to hear on the inside, the things that are going on during closed practices, i.e. not practices that we have direct access to, there's a lot of healthy back and forth right now between the offense and the defense. It's not like one unit is demolishing the other. And that was kind of the case last fall. That was kind of the first precursor, the first red flag, if you will, in advance of the 2024 season, which we all witnessed, and the abysmal offense that accompanied it. But thus far in spring, even with a lot of injuries at the wide receiver room most specifically, it's not as if the Oklahoma defense has just been thoroughly powering down the offense. And that's a good sign because you know what you're getting with the Oklahoma defense. They're bringing 8 of 11 starters back. The 3 guys that they lost, yeah, they were fantastic, but they're replacing them with darn good football players in their own right. Peyton Bowen is your new Billy Bowman. Marvin Jones Jr. is your new Ethan Downs. Kip Lewis kind of slides into the Danny Stutzman role. So, who's your new Kip Lewis? Is it Samuel Masigo, perhaps? Is it Kendall Daniels? That's maybe the one thing that is yet to be determined. But just the knowledge that the Oklahoma offense isn't getting run off the field by that defense, especially with Brent Venables at the controls now. That's got to be a really, really encouraging sign for the season ahead. Doesn't mean that Oklahoma's offense is going to be a force. Doesn't mean they're going to be a top 5, top 10 unit. like the Halcyon, Lincoln Riley, Jeff Lebby days. But I think what it does indicate is that Oklahoma is going to be a lot better on that side of the football. Maybe we'll get to see a glimpse of what they actually look like come Saturday at the Crimson Combine. Man, we've been on air for 2 hours. We haven't even discussed the Crimson Combine. Perhaps we'll dig into that a little bit more on the other side, because Grayson and I aren't going anywhere. Locked In kicks off here at the top of the 2 o'clock hour. Another hour with us awaits you on the other side, so we hope you'll stick around. The Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, 405-651-3439. Fill it up with questions, comments, opinions, and of course, keep it here on the Ref.